WNST. We're in Catonsville, where UMBC was hosting a real retreat for local college basketball coaches, and media days are all the rage these days, and certainly Robert Canady appreciates that, because remember the old days, you'd go school by school, they'd all have separate media days, but in recent times, this has been a nice little get-together, and UMBC's got the new gym over there now to show it off, and everyone got together for one day, including one of our partners here, Juan Dixon at Coppin State as well. Good to have you aboard, as always, courtesy of our friends at Compass Point Golf, where you're down there still enjoying the 70-degree days when running between raindrops as well, but it is officially college basketball season. I know it's your favorite time of the year.
It is. It was kind of hard to think it was hoop season on Tuesday, walking to that arena, from about 3 blocks away in 80-degree heat, But it's nice, to get some late season golf in and everything. But by the time I got in the arena and started seeing some familiar faces and everything, the hoops juices got flowing, and it was a great day out there Tuesday. Good chance to catch up with all the local coaches, and at this time of year, everyone's full of optimism for the most part and looking forward to the season. So, a lot of good stuff came out of it Tuesday.
I began last year at UMBC's event in Fells Point, and John Feinstein came out and spoke. Gary Williams was there, and, both Coach Odoms were there as well. Hard to believe that, in all of the I turned 50 this week, Robert. I've been watching college basketball since, 73, since David Thompson hit his head, and I always loved college basketball in the 70s, in the 80s, in the ACC, and everything that Duke and North Carolina and Maryland and Lefty and Terry Holland and Ralph Sampson and all of that stuff, right? When you think of a 16 beating a 1, it's never happened, and the fact that it kind of happened in this circle, I don't know what it does for UMBC. I don't know what it does for local basketball. I know, it used to be a big deal that Towson could get into the tournament and lose a game to Oklahoma or whomever they would be playing, and that was 30 years ago, and Terry Truax now, right? But for where we are, there is that hope that is very, very real when one of the local schools pulls it off the way they did, right? So that creates hope for Coppin State to do what they did back in '98 again under Fang, or for Towson to make a tournament. And I know there's been a lot of transition, and I guess the real story is amongst all of these local schools, Navy, Mount St. Joe, Towson, Loyola, they were all under one tent, Morgan, that Coppin's the only one really returning a lot of people, and not that Odom is starting from scratch, but what he had at the end of last year is not what he has right now in the Jerris Lyles kind of way, right?
No, you're exactly right, and it's on the topic of the 16 beating the 1. That was obviously something that was discussed a little bit yesterday with Ryan Odom and Joe Sherburne, his returning senior, and they both spoke about it for a little minute, and said it was great and everything. But of course, as they do, pretty much said that they were past that by the time spring came and summer practices. They were definitely past it, and it's a good memory to have. But it doesn't do them any good this year, and so they're ready to move on. And it's funny, talking about Coppin State, and Juan, we're talking about how he always plays a death row of non-conference, the money games he has to play, and they open up at Wisconsin, and, not going to get much tougher than that for your season opener. And I asked him, do you use what UMBC did against Virginia as a talking point, to your team going into games like that? And he said, well, sure. He goes, absolutely. He says, but, nothing against UMBC. He says, but, going way back to Butler, going back to back-to-back Final Fours a few years ago, because that's something I always point to, that, you can even, one game is great, but you can get beyond that. And the George Mason run was brought up. So, it's something that, it's definitely been done multiple times in the past, not a 1 being a 16, but a mid-major getting into a tournament and, making a little bit of noise. So, the tough part for them is all getting there, because they have to win their conference tournament. They're not going to get a large bid. So that's what it all boils down to, those 3 or 4 days in March, when they gather at the end of the season. And, they could have gone, 20-6 in the regular season, but that's not going to mean anything if they get bounced out the first round of their conference tournament. So we talked a lot about scheduling with Ryan Odom from UMBC and Pat Scarry of Towson. And, as far as trying to schedule higher quality games, and, a lot that goes into the non-conference, and, looking at the RPIs. And Ryan Odom mentioned it's something that's a success last year has been a benefit. Marquette reached out to them for the schedule to open the first game of the season at the new Marquette Center in November. And he says that's something that would have never happened before because Marquette views them now as a name that the people are going to recognize there. Instead of coming out and thinking it's just some patsy that they'll run over, they'll say, oh, well, this is the team that beat Virginia.
Hey, dude, I mean, if you say to me Chaminade now, right, 35 years later, if Chaminade played Maryland, I would remember that, right?
We still talk about it.
And UMBC will be that. Hey, Coppin was that for a while, at the turn of the century when Fang won, and had they won that second game against Texas, they would have... They would have been that kind of a Cinderella story in the way that Florida Gulf Coast or, anything in the modern vernacular. College of Charleston was that team at one point in slaying a giant many, many moons ago. So when the little schools win, guys like us that watch basketball in March and have for 30 years, it sticks with you. The UMBC thing's never going to go away, and especially because it was a 16-1.
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that's never been done. There's been a couple of 15s beating the 2s and a 14s, as you get farther down the line. But, the question every year, is this the year that a 16 beats a 1? And sure, that'll be asked again, but there will never be a first time. And that's something UMBC will always have on that. And, it was neat throughout the day yesterday, Tuesday, to look up and see the video board playing some highlights from the win of, in the conference championship, and against Vermont, and then, the NCAA tournament. So that's something they'll always have. And, it's, as Ryan Odom said, when they bring recruits into the building, it's definitely easy to get them there now with the name recognition. But then show them everything that the university has to offer and, let it stand on its own. I know Phil Stern, the women's coach, mentioned the same thing. It's been a benefit to them getting recruits in. So it's definitely something that people will always remember that name, with accomplishing.
Robert Canady is our guest. You can find him on Twitter at Buckets and Birds. You can also find him down at Compass Point Golf, where he is enjoying the good weather and the good life down there with 36 holes, and I'm going to be getting down and visiting with him as well. They've added some TVs. If you're in the neighborhood, you want to watch the game over the weekend, I'll be in Nashville if the weather's good. Afternoon. Sunday's going to be big at your place, right? Because Ravens don't play till 4, and Redskin fans like yourself licking your wounds from Monday night, but I'm sure Sunday will be a big day down at Compass Point, right?
Yeah, we'll be. We run a lot of specials on Sunday that kind of coincide with the football games, and like I said, we got the Sunday ticket in there. So if Ravens aren't your flavor, if you're one of those few Steelers fans that seem to show themselves around here and everything, might even turn on the smallest TV in the corner onto the Steelers game. But it'll be there to be had, and so good golf weather it looks like for the foreseeable next 7 to 10 days. So definitely can. Still season to get out and play that. We've got our craft beer open coming up on the 20th, and then our night golf is to wrap up at the end of the month. So there's still a couple events that people can sign up for at compasspointgolf.com and get in on those events, which are two of our most popular events.
Well, I can't believe I forgot about the craft beer open. That we had to go 8 minutes into this for you to bring it up, but that's next weekend as well. Robert Canady, our guest, and of course you can find him at Buckets and Birds on Twitter. And you and I've been jamming the golf thing the last 6 months, and I'm more into basketball than I am golf, and you do golf for a living and basketball for fun, and you've been doing it for over a decade now locally here with all of these teams. Do you have like a little power ranking in your own mind when you're out? I mean, obviously Coppin was horrific last year. They're our partner here. They can only stand to get better from where they were in the MEAC. Todd always has something going on at Morgan, but I think the Towson thing's intriguing because Pat built it up and then it's been burned down again, and now trying to build it back up again. Loyola is trying to get something going. There's a lot of stories around here, but I don't know. The horses and the courses, and some of these teams are going to intersect, as you've pointed out. They play each other, and obviously Coppin and Morgan in the same conference in the MEAC. But where do you rank these teams? And I don't know that anybody would have looked at UMBC last year and said, well, Ryan's clearly got the best team at this time last year.
At this time last year, absolutely not. I think this year, at this time, you pretty much have to say that. Like I said, even though he's got, he lost a lot of scoring in Jarris Lyles and KJ Mora, and but he brought some good, bringing in the leading scorer in junior college basketball. Was coming in as a transfer that sat out last year from Providence, Ricky Council, who he says is as good a shooter as they've had in a while. So Joe Sherburne returns. So they've got some pieces that'll need to be put together, see how they all play together. Towson's really intriguing for me to see how they come about with 9 new faces, and they're not all freshmen. There's a couple transfers, a transfer that sat out last year, and a junior college transfer there as well. And they do bring back 2 seniors that have been in the program for a while, but they're losing a lot of scoring with Morcell and Zane Martin. That was close to 40-some points a game that with Morcell graduating and Martin transferring. So where that offense comes from will be interesting to see. They're going to rebound and play defense. That's a hallmark of a Pat Scary team, and they, But as far as scoring goes, Coppin will be really interesting. Talked to Juan yesterday, and he's really excited about bringing back so many people. And it was interesting talking to him this year versus last year. Last year, he came in and he said he kind of had to be a Richard, but he used a different word, to kind of set the tone, and get everyone's attention. But, this year it's more of a, picking up where things left off at the end of the year when they were playing really well and, in their conference tournament.
Well, I don't think there's anything harder in coaching than taking over somebody else's kids, right? Like, even if you're Juan Dixon and everybody knows who you are or whatever, they're not your guys, and that's where we are now with Odom a couple years into this and Scary and, obviously Todd. But when you get your own players, then you get to go fight with the guys you recruited, the guys you said, I want you and you want me. I think it's always hard in any transition.
Right. And, so he's a year into that now and has time with them. They know his system. He knows what he's got with them. Been jumping over to Loyola, so that's something Loyola will fight with. Tavares Hardy being new there and, coming into a system and hasn't had a chance to really get his people in there. Got his coaching staff in, but he brings back a little bit of talent from last year as well, but, from a team that didn't do too well. So there's, a lot to be seen there. So I think it's pretty much at this point UMBC at the top, and everyone else will have to kind of shake out to see where they go. And as you mentioned, we'll get to see a lot of that in some crosstown games. The December 8th doubleheader down at Royal Farms Arena with Towson and Morgan playing, and then Maryland will be playing the other Loyola, from the Chicago. They're talking about another Cinderella run from last year, so that'll be an interesting matchup. And then a lot of them will be playing, campus games against each other as well. So by the time January comes, you'll pretty much know who stands where and everything, and all the non-conference scheduling will be done, and it'll be interesting for everyone to run that final schedule. But we have a long time to go for them, and a lot to see, and looking forward to being out in all the gyms in November and December and seeing them all.
In general, the bringing together of all the local coaches, look, I've been a college basketball supporter from the very beginning. I'm in my 28th year of talking about UMBC and Loyola and Coppin and Towson and Morgan. Nobody has done more of that. Nobody than WNST, period. And I know that begging for coverage and trying to get people out, and UMBC has a new building now. Coppin has a beautiful building, and we partner. We put their games on here at WNST. But it is disappointing that there's not more media coverage, interest, people out, tweeting out. It was a pretty good event on Tuesday, and you bring these coaches together. I'd like to see more enthusiasm for the programs here locally in a general sense.
It is, and you're absolutely right. The media hasn't done a great job of, like you said, with the exception of WNST, as far as covering the local games and local schools. And I mean, that's it's a plain fact. Like I said, I've been in this area for 12 some years plus and following the sport, and so I can speak to that from just an observation standpoint. In the last few years of doing it with you and everything as well, and it was. On Tuesday, I kind of got to spend a few moments with Diane Richardson, the women's coach at Towson. And self-admittedly, I have not paid a lot of attention to women's basketball in the past. I just haven't. It's just been one of those things.
Well, it's all you can do to keep up with what the hell Tiger Woods is doing, let alone, in your own golf. I mean, we all don't have attention for everything, and I've sort of stopped apologizing for not watching the WNBA or NASCAR or guys getting in a cage and beating the hell out of each other and then jumping out of cages in the middle. I'm not into jumping in and out of cages. I've just decided I don't have time for the WWE anymore. Luke and I have fun with it. It's just, I'm 50 years old, dude. I'm into what I'm into, and I try to at least be interested in stuff that I'm not interested in, or even stuff peripheral like golf that I keep a little bit of an interest in to stay with. But, it is tough, man. It's tough for the men, let alone the women, right? I mean, Phil Stern's one of my dear friends. But I don't know how I can make everyone in the world interested in women's college basketball other than to present it in a format that's, and we do this at Coppin and with Dwayne as well, present it in a way that makes it significant for the time that it's significant. And then the people decide whether they want to be interested in it or whether they want to follow it online or get out and check out a game, right?
Right, absolutely. Right. It is a limited time for everyone, media and fans both alike, but I think it was a great opportunity for, Diane and Phil to be there. And, you could tell they both appreciated it, the chance to, talk to media that wouldn't normally give them attention or they wouldn't be exposed to. And, I got to spend a few moments talking to Nukaya Mayo. I probably butchered her name there, from Towson, and just the most pleasant, young woman you would want to speak to, and very excited about the team and everything. And, Diane Richardson is very enthusiastic about her second year there now. And, she went through some growing pains last year. She said we weren't very good, just plain out they weren't. And, she's excited about what they'll do this year. So it was a great opportunity, to see that side of it as well. And, because, like I said, they don't get the attention that they normally do. So it provided a good outlet for that opportunity as well. So it was a good day all around for all the local teams, both men and women's sides, and everyone was excited and ready. I guess they'll be tipping off here in less than a month or so.
Well, it was good to see Pete out there from BAL and some other folks, and watching you go round and round with the tables, and I was hobnobbing and glad-handed and eating free food, according to Tim Leonard. I was, grabbing sandwiches and putting them under my arm. So, hey, man, always good to have you on. Tell everybody what's going on at Compass Point here one more time. Folks want to get down there. I mean, it's been sort of inordinately good golfing weather, right? I mean, as much as we're into basketball and Moonlight Madness and all this stuff, I've yet to have to put a jacket on or feel a chill down my neck. Now, I know once it comes, I'm going to be freezing my tail off this winter. But in the meantime, for golf, for boaters, for my wife and I to walk through the harbor on a October night in short sleeves, take advantage of this, right, if you're on the golf course.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had all that rain in September, which kind of cut into some of the golf opportunities. But so far, October has been nothing but spectacular. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, the forecast looks great for the next week or so, and I've said all along, fall's the best time of the year for golf. I think for the most part that humidity's gone. You're playing either a little wind vest or a light sweater or something, and it's best time of year. And it looks like we have got a good stretch of it. So yeah, we got those two events definitely. I've seen some registrations come through my printer as we were talking, so they must be getting out at compasspointgolf.com. For the not the Irish Open, the Craft Beer Open, and then the night golf, the Halloween edition at the end of the month. So definitely some room to get signed up for both of those.
Look forward to seeing you down there. The games are on as well all weekend long. College football Saturday and Sunday at Compass Point Golf. Robert, always good to see you, man. I always forget how tall you are till I run into you in person.
Yeah, then all I got to do is go out and stand next to a couple of the players or Todd Bozeman or something, and I realize I'm not so tall.
I always feel short in the basketball. I never feel short around football players. Isn't it funny? Like I'm used to them in some way. Like even John Ogden and Bryant McKinney and, these monsters, Alex Lewis, these big dudes. I don't ever feel small, but when I'm around basketball guys, I always feel short. But I hang out with Pat Scarry, so then I feel better,
Well, there you go. The point guard of the group. The point guard.
The feisty point guards, the shooting guard. Hey, man, good to have you aboard, man. We'll see you next week.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Robert Canady, he's Buckets and Birds. He's over at Compass Point Golf. That's Compass with the silent E. Compass Point. The point has the silent E. Golf. You can find them down in Pasadena. 36 bikini wax greens at compasspointgolf.com. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. The morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and planetfitness.com. And Planet of Triumphs is also a website to get some inspiration. Pretty cool place if you're getting back in the gym because the weather's going to get sour at some point. You're going to need that gym membership. $5 down, $10 a month. That's Planet Fitness. Also brought to you by the Maryland Jockey Club. They're running the Maryland Million next weekend. That's Saturday the 20th at Laurel, or as the coach would say, Laurel. You can learn more on the front of WNST.net. As well as in our morning newspaper, where there is a Laurel Entries tab. So check that out. And you hear the ads around here. Get on down to Laurel and enjoy the beautiful Vegas-like show place they put together down there. You're going to be blown away. You get down to Laurel. If you haven't been there lately, check it out. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. I join Dennis on Thursdays right around 4:15 usually. And I'm headed to Nashville for my 50th birthday. I will be older and hopefully wiser when I return. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.